Good evening, everyone. Coming to you live on the stream as Hurricane Milton has officially made landfall in Siesta Key, Florida. This happened just a couple of minutes ago as a Category 3 major hurricane with winds at 120 miles per hour. And it is anything but over. Even after making official landfall, there are still a couple of hours ahead of lashing conditions for the Tampa Bay area, specifically the south side through Bradenton, Sarasota, Siesta Key, Longboat Key, back up north to Anna Maria Island, and then off to the south all the way to areas like Venice. So let's take a closer look at what we have going on right now with Milton. And first, I want to start off by saying how hard it is to exactly predict where something like this is going to make landfall. These are past fixes on the center of the hurricane. Notice how much this hurricane has been wobbling, wavering back and forth by 10 to 15 miles. And it's not like a steady pattern or anything. This is almost an unpredictable pattern, especially stuff like this. And that makes a huge difference on impacts inland. That is why so many people were ordered to evacuate, and we are fearing the worst in Tampa Bay. Because if this wobbled just 5 or 10 more miles north into Tampa Bay, then we would have been talking about 15 feet of storm surge instead of only 6 to maybe 8 feet of storm surge now in Tampa Bay. That is perfect for Port of Tampa too, because that is one of the spots where they want to bring fuel in to help reload the gas stations and also help bring equipment in for the recovery effort. So the fact that the Port of Tampa is not getting absolutely crippled at this point by storm surge is a good thing for timing on the recovery effort. That being said, this is anything but over. This is still a major hurricane, again, making landfall just a few minutes ago in Siesta Key, Florida at 120 miles per hour, a Category 3 storm. Here's the latest few hours worth of that radar loop, and you see most of the action on the north side, a little bit drier on the south side as that dry air has worked its way into the hurricane. It's in the process of becoming an extratropical system, but I still believe it'll maintain hurricane strength almost all the way across, if not all the way across the peninsula of Florida. This big box that you see here, this is a tornado warning for our tornado watch, for Florida. There were, though, 114 tornado warnings with this initial band that moved through, and then the one that followed that for the afternoon mainly, and over on the Treasure Coast and up to the Space Coast from Cape Canaveral south through Vero Beach, even down to areas of Miami. Tornadoes on the ground, large violent ones that knocked a lot of power out. In fact, some of the largest concentrations of power outages are actually over in eastern Florida right now and not western Florida. Now, that being said, power outage numbers are going up in western Florida, and I'll talk about that in just a couple seconds. First, though, I want to get back into the details of this storm. If you have any friends or relatives that are there, there is an extreme wind warning for Bradenton County, Pinellas County, which includes like Tampa, St. Pete, if you're not familiar with the area, and I think it's Hillsdale or Hillsborough or something county around Tampa, the actual city itself. Bottom line here, before you get into Sarasota County, that extreme wind warning does stop, and areas in this warning are in the northern eye wall of the storm, and they're seeing winds of anywhere from 100 to 110 miles per hour. I saw an official gust in Sarasota, which is not in the extreme wind warning, an official gust there at 96 miles per hour. Chances are there's going to be higher gusts. We're just not getting them because the sensors are getting blown offline as the power continues to go out. We've got the power of a live Doppler radar here. This is located out at Tampa, and this is Tampa Bay's radar site, and you can see the really heavy returns that are right now going through Tampa Bay into the city. These are areas that are catching 3 to 4 inches of rain per hour. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a foot, possibly up to 20 inches of rain when all is said and done. So there's a secondary flash flooding threat, a freshwater threat, in addition to the storm surge threat, and in addition to the tornado threat, in addition to the high wind threat too. So again, this is a very dangerous situation still unfolding across central and western portions of Florida. Here is the velocity data, and what this shows you is exactly how fast the wind speeds are. So I'm going to go head down here for a couple of seconds just so I can actually navigate around and we can get some live data. Again, that is the radar spinning in real time. Thankfully, that radar is still online, and it's giving us some numbers here to work with. So I'll just query a couple of these numbers, and this is basically at random. I'm just going to go in areas where you can see just higher values. So this I clicked, this is Anna Maria Island, right? Let me get my bearings. This is Anna Maria Island. This is Longboat Key, Siesta Key as well. And I clicked just off of the barrier there, 96 miles per hour inside of the Tampa Bay area, like just north of Bradenton. I can go up here and I can click kind of just south of the Sunshine Bridge, and a random click gives me 79 miles per hour worth of wind. Again, this is that northern eye wall affecting Bradenton, affecting 75. This is Route 70, I believe, outside of Bradenton, and that goes up off to the north all the way to Tampa. There's a lot of golf course communities there, and they are seeing some of the strongest winds too, and power outages, as I mentioned. Now, speaking of those winds, now these are just a couple of sensors that are sampling the wind. There you go, 77 miles per hour in St. Pete. Remember, I took that sample from right here, so 79 basically matches up. 60 at MacDill Air Force Base, Tampa itself at 64 miles per hour, and 45 out at Tampa Executive. And these are winds that have been blowing for hours now. You head off to the south, I think that might be a little bit low there. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if Sarasota Bradenton's about to get into the eye of this. The Sarasota one a little bit farther off to the south of the Manatee River, and their winds may go down as the center of the hurricane does pass over them and makes its way onshore. Areas down here are going to be the ones that see the worst storm surge, like Venice, possibly 9 or even 15 feet of storm surge. And yet again, unfortunately for the Fort Myers area, they saw their whole bay with significant flooding from the last major hurricane that made its way up the coast, and that still has seen areas that haven't been rebuilt. So that's the rundown there, at least on what's going on with the hurricane at the current hour. I do want to say that almost 750,000 people are without power in Florida. There's 12 million total customers in the whole state, and 693,000 are without power. In Manatee County, that is 67,000 people without power, 100,000 people in Hillsborough County. That's the one that Tampa was in that I couldn't exactly remember the name of. And then Pinellas County, which is where St. Pete is. Pinellas County is right here. They have 161,000 people without power. That is an extremely prone area. I'm so glad that the winds are blowing out because this is basically a peninsula here, and it's surrounded by water on 3 sides, and it's tough to get in and out of. So to wrap up, Hurricane Milton has made landfall in southern Florida rather, as a Category 3 storm. It's the first one to make landfall in the Tampa Bay area in a very long time. Major hurricane. And it may be the worst one in almost 100 years when all is said and done, since that high water mark of 1921 in Tampa. Again, that happened at about 7:31, winds of 130 miles per hour. We're going to send you back to ABC News Live as they have continuing coverage of Hurricane Milton, and I'll see you here on ABC 7 at 10.